Hi everyone, today we will talk about lab number 3, which is dealing with the transformer. So before I start talking about the lab, I would like to show you the transformer that we are going to use for mutual inductance, which is the first part in the transformer. So the transformer that we are going to use, it is educational one. It has this winding, which is called, for example, primary winding. So this will be the secondary winding. As you are seeing for the primary winding or for this winding, I can use the transformer to transform power from like 240 to 120, or I can change from 280 to 120, or from 120 to 120, or from 10 to 120. I can, by using these two, make the input voltage 240, which is the full load. By connecting these two, will be the inputs. The input to the transformer will be 208, and so on. For the secondary, I can use these two terminals, but at that time I have to connect these two. By making that connection, at that time I have the voltage between these two, it is 240, but if I use only this one, the voltage here will be 120. So the first part of the lab is dealing with the mutual inductance. What's needed for the mutual inductance here, for this part, I would like to know the dot convention. So what am I going to do is, I'm going to connect the primary or the 240 winding to the power supply, and I'm going to connect between this point and this point for one of the secondary windings, and I will connect these two and these two, and then measure this voltage and measure this voltage. If this voltage is less than this voltage, then the location of the dot will be over there. If it is higher, the location of the dot will be at that position. Let us do the first part of the mutual inductance. So we are going to connect the transformer by using our power supply. This is the power supply that we are using. So this winding will be connected like that. And I'm going to measure the output voltage after connecting these two. And I'm going to measure as well the input voltage. So for measuring the input voltage, I'm going to connect these two to the data acquisition system, like what we are seeing. So this guy is measuring the voltage to the input, or the input voltage to the transformer. And this guy is measuring the output voltage, which is E2. So I'm going to measure E2 and I'm going to measure E1. If E2 is less than E1, at that time the location of the dot will be over there, based on what is written in the lab report and what we discussed before during the class time. So if we try to apply the voltage, let us measure the voltage here. And let me see the voltage like what you are seeing. I applied a certain amount of voltage for E1, which is 8.6, and the voltage for the secondary winding is 4. So the secondary winding voltage is less than the primary winding, which means the dot is 8.8. The second part of this lab will be by connecting this circuit. So I will, for this part, I will try to calculate XM and I will try to calculate K. So I'm going to make 4 different connections like what you are seeing. I'm going to use one of these 2 coils as test coil, and I will adjust its voltage to be 60 volt, for example, to keep the flux constant during the whole experiment. So I'm going to feed the voltage to the primary winding, and I'm going to measure the voltage and the current. And I will adjust this voltage to make this voltage 60. And then I repeat, and this guy is open. I repeat the same story by keeping this guy open, and I will feed the voltage to this coil. And again, I will change the value of this voltage and measure its voltage and current till I reach the voltage test for coil 3 to be 60 volts. Then I will repeat the same story, but instead of using one coil alone, I'm going to use two different coils, and I'm going to use them in two different connections. One is called aiding, and another one is in opposite direction. So for the first one, what am I going to do? This coil will be connected to this coil. So I'm going to connect the end of this coil to the start of this coil. And I'm going to feed the voltage between this point and this point. Again, measure this voltage and this current, and they change the supply till I reach here for the test voltage till we reach to 60 volts. But pay your attention, for this part, I'm going to use phase to phase because the maximum voltage for the phase to neutral is 120. So I'm going to use phase to phase to give me higher voltage, because probably I need higher voltage to reach to 60 volt for this test. I would like to keep the test voltage constant. Again, I'm going to repeat what I did here, but instead of connecting this guy to this guy, I'm doing something different, like what you are seeing. I'm going to connect this end for this coil to this end for this coil, and then I'm going to feed between these 2 points, between this point and between this point. Again, I'm going to change the value of the supply voltage till I reach value of voltage here, which is equal to 60. So let us start by the first one. I will disconnect everything, and I will start from the beginning. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to connect this supply. This guy will be connected to the supply, but again, I'm going to use two different phases, these two, and instead of using phase to neutral. So I'm feeding by using these two phases because I'm expecting higher voltage. Then I'm going to keep this guy open, and I'm going to measure this voltage. So I would like to measure this voltage. By using E2, and again, I would like to measure this voltage and the current. So for measuring this voltage, I'm going to use, for measuring the current first, like what I told you, I'm going to connect my ammeter here between these 2 points. So the current is going from this guy to the ammeter, then go back here. Then I would like to measure the voltage between these 2 points. I will measure the voltage between these 2 points. By using E1, which is this guy. I connect my circuit right now. This guy is measuring the voltage. This guy is measuring the current to the source. And this guy is measuring the voltage to this coil. Then I will connect my power terminal on, and then I will change the voltage. I would like also to have this guy to work, which is E1. I would like this guy to reach to 60. So what am I going to do? I'm going to change the supply voltage till I reach to 60. I'm looking for 60. So I will record the data that I have when I reach it 60. Almost 60, this is the voltage that I need. So this is the test voltage, and this is the supply voltage, and this is the current that I got. I repeat the same story, but after switching off everything, I repeat the same story, but at that time, what I'm going to do, instead of feeding this supply, I'm feeding this guy. So I'm feeding this guy. What I'm going to do only for this circuit, and instead of feeding this guy, I'm going to feed this guy and leave this alone. So this is what I'm going to do. I will not make any change except moving these two to this guy. Right now, this guy will be the supply. Again, turn it on and start changing the values. Till you reach 60. Almost we have 60, and I will record the voltage, the current, and the test voltage is 60. Then turn it off, repeat the same story, but at that time, what I'm going to do, I'm going to connect this guy to this guy. So what I have to do, these were here. What I have to do as an extra step, like what you are seeing here, I connected this guy to this guy, and the supply will be between this point and this point. So what am I going to do is, he told me connect this point to this point, and the supply will be through this one. So what I did here, this point is connected to this point, which is described here by this wire. And the supply is between this guy and between this point. This is what I did here. I repeat the same story. So I will start changing the voltage again. I would like to reach to 60. And I will record the current and the voltage. So when I reach it E to 60, I will stop moving. Almost 60. The input voltage is 180. And the current is equal to 0.066. I will turn it off, and let us go to the last part, which is this one. For the last part, what we have, what he did here, he connected this point, like what you are seeing, to this point. The end to the end, and he is feeding this point and this point. This is what I'm going to do. So again, he is feeding between these 2 points, and then he connected this end to this end. If you try to go back to the circuit, so what he did, he connected this end to this end, and he is feeding these 2. This is what I did. This end is connected to this end, and I'm feeding these 2. Again, I'm going to turn on my power supply, and I'm going to change the voltage input till I reach to 60 voltage for E2, which is the test voltage. Again, I will record the voltage for the primary and the current, which is 0.8, and the voltage 60.54. This is the end for that part. And I'll see you later on for transformer test. Bye for now.